Okay, well, thank you so much. I'm just delighted that you were able to make the time to record your memories. And I have heard everybody's mentioned your backyard and splitting up the EIR report.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
book club. That's how I started it.
Mhm.
I wanted to okay, so to begin at the beginning, Peter loves to say he was the first one, and he was, to notice because his house could see, his house was in a situation where he could see Sperry Mill. Um, and he actually became aware of it and was really working on next door. Um, I was aware of the Orsum announcement in May of 2015 when they put it out in NOP. And I filled out the paperwork to become a person of interest because I thought, what is this, a cement factory? I worked with mechanical engineers who were saying, look, a cement factory is the absolute most polluting thing on earth, a full-on cement factory. So in May of 2015, I had applied to become a person of interest, but I was told by the planning department that I had missed the deadline. So I was following on City Hall. You go through, I was one of these city hall rats. I was very, very involved in what the city was doing, as are many people. The Paula Bauer, Liat Metzenheimer, Don Osborne. I mean, it's the true function of democracy to be aware of what your government is doing. So in July, I went to City Hall, this is 2015, to have them pull off of the consent calendar an item that was up there for delaying the rent payment on Sperry Mill. And I'm going, who approved this project? It was like, you've given these people 65 years to build. Who approved this project? And I ended up talking to Marty Brown, one of the city council people at the time. And she says, oh, I remember that. She says, they just sold it to us as a green, very green cement factory. So anyway, that for me is when it started. And in September, when the DEIR came out, I had a very extensive email list, very, very, because of the politics I'd been involved in since 2012 and had done a lot of city hall speaking and I was following with groups of people, particular departments and particular policies in Vallejo and studying the history of Vallejo. So I thought, this DEIR is over 700 pages, and there was thousands of addendums, thousands of pages, I think, at least a couple thousand, a lot. So I thought, how can I get people to get involved in this? And I thought, well, I'm just going to use charm. I said, here we have this 700-page DEIR. Let's break it up into sections and we'll all take a section and read. So that's what we did. And I remember Tom Bilbo put it together on an Excel spreadsheet. So, and I'm the kind of person who will have timing, and accountability and all of that. But that's how it started, in my backyard and in my dining room. Let's read this DEIR. And then I sent you the photos from September of one of the early meetings, and Ken was there, and Nancy Petrosky, and Don, I think, was there. Anyway, it was the small group who had come together after some reading and some reporting on what they were saying was done. And then we said, okay, what do we know? Now, the remarkable thing about this effort is that, to me, I was just calling on people that I knew were very engaged in the city functioning of Vallejo, people who were doing city hall things. But Peter he and I did the first meeting together. He and I were always on the same page, but his He's my neighbor. He was new to me. I'd never known him before, but his background was PR and communications. My background to this project was organizing political heft from the grassroots, like literally bringing people together and seeing what we thought. And then, and I would bring, like the first meeting we had at City Hall in October of 2015, there was standing room only and at least 100 speakers. And these were people that I'd gone out to help recruit who were above Sperry Mill, and also all of the people that I knew, they were bringing all of the people they knew. So it was a community process wherein, because of Peter's brilliance at PR and understanding how to bring, I know how to bring people of a serious mind and a political bent, and also the community impacted people, the people who are actually going to be breathing the air above this thing. I can bring those people come forward, but Peter brings forward the larger groups of people because of the way, he says, rock the dust. I remember that was one of his first things, and it was a music, it was a
Yeah.
rock band and rock the dust. So Peter and I always saw ourselves as the mom and the dad, right? And he had he was the president. I never took a position. I was working full time as well as doing all of this, but I saw myself, and I think it worked well for me to be kind of the general manager. I'm the one who had the relationships with all of the people who came together. There was very few strangers, but in the end, I want you to know the strangers that came, the people I did not know, were the most essential people. Don Osborne, because of his legal abilities. Also, I'm sure people have mentioned to you Jeff Carlson and Lori Alliel. Jeff Carlson, I mean, these are all my neighbors. This is what's so amazing about it. These are just people who are friends and friends of friends. And in Vallejo, we had a lot of community gatherings, a lot of parties, a lot of talking. And Jeff Carlson just happened to have 30 years at the federal experience of environmental processes. And his background, and I would love to hear how he would describe it, but he knew how to nail CEQA. And so he brought his skill set to this situation and wrote articles to City Hall on things I could barely understand, but it was his expertise. Lori Alliel is a PhD, and she has exceptional understanding, and she came and spoke to us and gave us all of the information on environmental justice. Now, all of this happened within the first 2 months. So the consortium of people who came together, which started out as my little book club with the politicos and the community advocates, that grew into a space of about, I would say, 40 to 45 people who would bring their own skill sets. Seamus, Seamus, what's your last name? Do
Seamus
you know
Thornton.
Seamus?
Yeah.
What?
Seamus
What?
Thornton.
Yeah, Seamus Thornton.
Yeah.
His skill set, even though he is an IT genius and can do all of that, his remarkable enthusiasm got people to do the public, like and Paula Bauer was huge on this as well, but do the farmers markets, do the public standing at Lemon Street and, honking horns and having big signs. And Seamus was also really good at that. Also a lovely lady who now lives in New York, Jennifer Goheen. She was working full time, had a family at home, and she would go down at 6 a.m. and hand out flyers to the people who were getting onto the ferry. So, but Jennifer Goheen would just go early to the ferries. So the remarkable thing is that each one of us had a very personal reason for going cement. And as soon as you read the DEIR and you see that they're going to bring in 600-foot length Supramax ships, which would, like, how are we going to run a ferry when you have those ships running on diesel? You know, I mean, once it didn't take much to see that this was a pollution nightmare from the trucks and the ships. It was going to disrupt and harm the community. They just said, oh yeah, 10 people, you know, will die of cancer. I don't know if that was their yearly prediction, but all we had to do was just read that and listen to what each other was reading. And the personal commitment was on. Frankly, some of our friends sold their houses and moved. It was almost 4 years. And there were days when it's just like, we could lose. We could lose. And then you go, should I sell my house? The agony of this was real. It was real, and it was painful. But the fight went on because it was in us individually to do this, and the genius and the remarkableness of the group is what we call the hive. We had hive mind, so that when one of us was feeling injured or exhausted because burnout was real, there were others doing amazing work, like Jimmy Sarmiento and Lena, I can't pronounce her last name, and Donald. They were working on one of the, which ended up being a nail in the coffin. They took 1 year, but Lena was an international real estate developer from the Philippines, and she knew that the contract that they had with the land was messed up. So they took 1 year, and Jimmy is an excellent researcher. I believe he's got insurance in his background. I'd have to know, because he is truly a genius. And they got together and they found out that it was a corrupted holding, that it wasn't the city's to sell. It was much more complex than that. So that was one of the groups that was really moving forward. So you could see that people were looking to nail these people in different areas. Jay Gunkelman is a genius at the EEG. He's able to read and understand models. He basically proved that their models of airflow meant we had no airflow in Vallejo. The wind doesn't blow in Vallejo. Trust us. It doesn't, there's no wind.
Yeah.
So he just stabbed a knife, the silver dagger, right through the models of airflow. And of course, Jeff Carlson was a lion in his work. And his wife told me that Jeff was exhausted. It was the impact, you know, if anyone's watching this and going, I want to be involved in stopping an international, well-funded, 4-color, glossy, you know, thick paper, flyers and constant ads in the paper, the money they had to spend to push us out, and the deals that they had made secretly with the city hall in secret. Everyone is, they just had 3 people so they wouldn't break the Brown Act code. They met in secret using their personal emails. That was Stephen Hallett. Stephen Hallett did Freedom of Information Acts and pulled all of the secret stuff out of the city. He was an attorney. We had 4 attorneys. It was Stephen and Paula. So he pulled out, and 2 more. He pulled out that secret information, And so we could take to the city to say, look, you guys are in Brown Act violation, because when the mayor went into these meetings, you had 4 city council people meeting secretly and trying to get these people in. I'm pretty sure that there was some kind of state agreement. So all I want to say is, you know, trust your instincts and fight for what's right, but be prepared to hurt a lot. It is very heavy work. And I think the reason why we were so successful is because each person brought their own genius. We all loved our beautiful, beautiful, built by shipbuilders homes. We loved the community. We loved each other. We admired each other. And we did the hard work. I hope I've given a sense of how the individual motivations with the individual ideas. And that was, I was kind of, like I said, the general manager looking at everything, and then I would relate to everybody. And it was all very smooth. But what was happening was that people were working independently. Like everybody had, it started out, and I was the one who early on kind of assigned people to, hearts and minds, legal, political, and there was another one. But I was watching the group. I'm pretty good at where people come from. And then I started out saying, hey, you guys are now the legal team. I kind of tricked people into showing themselves, and then was able to say, hey, you're in the legal team, gal, and you're in hearts and minds, and then let them work from there. But I was the glue in between everybody, looking to, or the love support system. That was my job. My job was to support and empower anyone who was there doing what they were doing. And some people don't need any help. Some people need a lot of help. But